Pacing is easily one of the most vital aspects of a video game, and nailing it can be a dreadful task for a developer. It's a medium that requires balancing elements of a narrative and gameplay mechanic for the entirety of the experience, and when that's not done right, things can quickly start to fall off track. Of course, that doesn't mean that games that exhibit such tendencies turn out to be objectively bad, but having pacing issues does leave a sour taste in the mouth. With this feature, we'll be taking a look at 10 such games that do start out strong, but tend to get a lot less interesting as you inch towards the end credits. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Kojima Productions delivered one of the best stealth experiences of recent memory with Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. The game meshes together a great story filled with underlying themes along with an open world that's quite literally a playground of possibilities. It's one of the best games that use the concept of systemic world design to the fullest extent. And it's really fun to bend these systems to your will and come up with interesting solutions to a variety of problems. The game starts out really strong, and Kojima ensures gradual progression as new tools start to open up and missions get more complex with new enemy types and labyrinthian designs, forcing you to use everything in your arsenal to get through it all. But once you get past Mission 31, you notice that new missions are actually just rehashed older missions with new mission clear constraints tacked on for good measure. It's still fun to clear out these missions, but stripping away the freedom to cause chaos can also turn some people off, and that coupled with the fact that it's all essentially rehashed content built to pad out the game can tamper with the enjoyment. Rage. id Software of Doom fame crafted a fun open-world experience with Rage, thrusting players into a post-apocalyptic world filled with action-packed thrill rides and memorable firefights. It starts off on a high note, and getting through the missions while slowly decking up your character with fancy gadgets and fast buggy cars remains a really enjoyable affair. The art direction is stunning despite being dominated by muted shades of the color green, brown, and gray, and combat requires players to be on their toes at all times. But what mars Rage down by a significant margin is the story that binds it all together. Not only is it poorly written and also easily forgettable, but the missions that once felt enjoyable now start to seem like forced hauls through long stretches of the wasteland ad nauseum, making the latter half of the experience an absolute slog at times. Final Fantasy XV. Final Fantasy XV spent many years in development hell, and when it was finally released in 2015, it proved to be a big leap over its predecessors. In addition to a brand new combat system that was a hybrid of action and turn-based, Final Fantasy XV also marked the shift to an open-world structure, which resulted in a markedly fresh experience. Slashing through hordes of foes and exploring the many mystical locales is a blast for the first few hours, but the game slows down to a crawl during the latter chapters. The freedom of exploration that made the first half so enjoyable is replaced by long linear sections that feel forced and unnecessary, making reaching the end credits an absolute slog. Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy was a dream come true for fans of the wizarding world, and Portkey Games did a great job of capturing the spirit of being an aspiring student in the prestigious institution of magic that is Hogwarts. Exploring the many nooks and crannies of the school and surrounding areas is a blast, and chaining together different spells remains a fun activity for a good few dozen hours. But once you reach past a certain point, that feeling starts to wither off as the basic combat loop has run its course, and you have to perform the same combos over and over again. Couple that with cookie-cutter side activities and pacing issues, and Hogwarts Legacy can become a troublesome experience. Far Cry 3. After a strong run with Far Cry 2, the developer delivered yet another hit with Far Cry 3, taking players on an unforgettable trip to the tropical paradise that is Rook Islands. With a more streamlined gameplay system and fun side activities, Far Cry 3 can be a really fun game that can be enjoyed for hours upon hours on end. Of course, we also have Vass, a character who can easily get under your skin with his commanding presence and whimsical nature. The developer crafts a compelling journey to face this big bad guy with memorable missions like burning down weed gardens and exploring mystical locales. But once you get past that point and on to the final showdown with Citra, Far Cry 3 can become boring, since taking back outposts and gunning down goons becomes almost second nature, stripping you of any real challenge. It also doesn't help that the narrative takes a dump in quality, leading to a sour taste in the mouth which icks after having such a delightful experience otherwise. Mafia III. The Mafia games have never been the most sophisticated in terms of open world design or gameplay, and the appeal generally comes from taking in a well-written crime drama with complex characters that can double-cross you at any time. Most of these qualms are applicable to Mafia 3 as well, and despite the fact that Deck 13 tried to create a more fun and happening open world with this iteration, it all falls down in the face of poor execution and sheer repetition. Mafia 3 starts out strong, and getting to grips with the newly introduced stealth mechanics and backup calling features is an interesting experience that's sure to get you pumped up for the road ahead. But what happens is that the game runs out of juice by the first half, and you're subjected to the same kinds of missions over and over again. The feeling of endlessly running in circles starts to kick in, and the only semblance of a hook at this point is to see the conclusion of this story. Dark Souls 1. From Software's Dark Souls is easily one of the most important games of the last couple of generations. At a time when games were hell-bent on catering to the largest possible audiences with ghost train rides and watered-down difficulty options, Dark Souls dared to be different, crafting an uncompromising experience no matter the cost. The first half is a masterclass in interconnected world design and bosses that test your mettle to the fullest, and the road to Anor Londo is as blissful of an experience as it is dreadful. But once you get to that point, the game kind of devolves into a shadow of that former glory. Interconnected world design is thrown out the window in favor of a poorly developed fast travel, and later levels like the Lost Izalith and New Londo Ruins have weird gimmicks for challenges. The game generally takes a nosedive in terms of quality, which is pretty disheartening considering the otherwise fantastic experience of the first half. Silent Hill 4: The Room. The Silent Hill franchise had been on a downward spiral ever since the release of Silent Hill 2 back in the early 2000s, and while Silent Hill 4 offered a flicker of hope for the dwindling series, it also ended up being a divisive experience for fans. It's a great survival horror experience that nails the ominous vibe of its predecessors along with a healthy dose of jump scares waiting around each corner. Looking at the moment-to-moment gameplay, Silent Hill 4 ticks all the right boxes, but once you start looking at the bigger pictures, problems with the macro-level pacing start to emerge. The way in which the developer reveals the mystery is very erratic, with the first half being a lot more eventful than the second half. Couple that with having to revisit certain levels more than once, and Silent Hill 4 becomes a very conflicting experience with an equal numbers of highs and lows. Resident Evil 3 Remake is a game of two halves, with the first obviously being a lot better than the second. The reason behind the nosedive in quality has to be attributed to the fact that it forgoes its survival horror roots in favor of an action-packed blockbuster experience, which results in a dissonance between the two halves. It's a repeat of the same issues that made Resident Evil 6 so divisive in the first place, and it's a shame that the developer didn't learn the lesson, since it could have been a much better experience if the tonality was kept consistent through and through.
It's back! Jill! Jill, what happened? Jill, come in!
Middleearth Shadow of War. Building on the foundations of Shadows of Mordor, Middle-earth Shadows of War spun a vast net of ideas and created an open-world setting brimming with imagination true to Tolkien's works. It's a great game that meshes together elements of stealth, action, and strategy to create an engaging experience. The Nemesis system works wonders and crafts personal meta-narratives that will stay with you long after the credits roll and also help in removing mundanity from the whole affair.
I remember every fight we've had, right back to the first one in Udrun. This crowd doesn't know you the way I do, but even so, they'll love watching me kill you. They'll probably want to look.
It's a pretty fun game to begin with, and building your army of orc captains while navigating the many challenges it throws with you can be addicting as you get stronger with each battle. But there eventually comes a point where it all devolves into a grind, practically forcing you to buy into the microtransactions economy. And even if you do that, the mechanics run out of juice in the face of an extraneously long runtime, making things bad in that scenario as well. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell. And let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.